X of Swords Creation Issue 1 heads to the kingdom of Dryador, where the last watchtower is assaulted by Annihilation and his armies. The villain's generals are disgusted at what the tower stands for, knowing the name of the tower literally means the light forever, which is a bold claim. The warlords call for war, launching their armies at the tower as they say they will litter the path to Krakoa with the corpses of all who stand against them. In the watchtower, the lord of the tower is told of the collapse of the outer ring wall and they need to leave before the tower falls. The Cursed King says that he is called so because he has outlived 3 queens with no children, so he has no line to protect, so if the kingdom falls, it will fall with him. The servant tells his lord that they are the only ones between the Horde and the Starlight Citadel, so the king gives his squire his scepter, telling him to take it to Lady Opal in the Citadel and tell her what is coming. The squire takes off as the warlords spot his flying mount, putting their mark on him with a poison arrow, hitting the squire in the back as the mount continues onward towards the Citadel. Later, the squire makes it to the Starlight Citadel, but is diseased by the poison arrow, meaning his touch could kill Lady Opal. Opal notes that he is carrying the scepter, knowing something ill is on the horizon, as the squire mutters his message, but no one can hear him until he screams that Arakko has fallen. Opal knows she needs to consult the cards, as in some forgotten area of space, at some forsaken time, a group of beings arrive through a gateway. The fish-headed leader tells the others to summon what is hidden in the slave sun. The beings begin their ritual, summoning the eldritch tentacle hidden away there. The tentacle is told to fulfill what it is meant to be. The being explodes the tentacle, knowing it won't be any of use the way it is, shaping it into a small wispy ball as they head back through the portal, not wanting to keep their lady waiting as the slave sun explodes. At the Starlight Citadel, Opal meets with the beings who take the tentacle monster into a forge, where it is forged into an eye-like device, as Opal knows that this place is covered in darkness. She activates the eye device as she opens the box containing her tarot cards, wanting to see what the future holds for them. The first card she draws is Judgment, which she knows the death of death is the way forward, and now that the mutants are able to bring their dead back, she wonders what else they have awoken in Earth in doing so. Next, she draws the Four of Wands, finding a family who has been fighting for eons has one final confrontation ahead of them, and then after that they can rest on the ashes of their defeated. She knows that they crave the last battle as the Hanged Man card is drawn. This time Opal knows no men hang, but something is hanging indeed, be it time or natural laws or earthly attachments. Next, she pulls the Eight of Cups, knowing Genesis's heart has been left empty, wanting for something more. Opal wonders if she'll be turned away as the final card, the Ten of Swords, is revealed. Opal knows that this is it, the light that she sees in the darkness, and something that she has long desired, but it has flickered just out of her reach. Looking at the X-Men who hold the swords, she knows a great match lights the darkness now. At Arakko Point, the external gate crackles to life, spewing forth black tentacles as Summoner, along with the wounded Banshee, burst through, asking for help since Banshee is dying. Later at the Healing Gardens, Banshee is tended to as Apocalypse talks with his grandson, learning that they were ambushed on Otherworld by the army that attacked Arakko. Summoner goes with Apocalypse to the Quiet Council, telling them of the troubling news about the army marching on Arakko. He talks about the external gate they made, but Magneto reminds him that it was all Apocalypse's doing, not the Council's, and he never even asked for permission to do so, and it cost mutant lives to make. Apocalypse says that gateways are made all the time by mutants without permission, so why ask? And if he didn't have Krakoa's blessing, the island would have stopped him. Cypher confirms that the island is okay with the external gate being opened, as Apocalypse tells the council about the combined land of Okara and how it was cleaved in two by a monster and Arakko was lost. But months ago, the summoner arrived with news of Arakko's survival, so he began building gates in a hope to connect the islands together again, soon sending Summoner back to prepare for his return, wanting the child to tell him what happened. The Summoner regales the council with the story of how him, Banshee, and Unis the Untouchable arrived at the center of the Otherworld, finding the Starlight Citadel, but also finding an army that soon ambushed them, the same army that broke Arakko, and the ones serving the Twilight Sword. The heroes battle the army, but soon Unis is somehow captured and Banshee was wounded, so Summoner was forced to retreat with Mutant. He knows he was meant to be the forerunner of a new age of Apocalypse, but instead he brings word of the fall of Arakko. Xavier hopes that Apocalypse can shed some more light on this, so the being says 1,000 years ago he gave up half the world to stop these monsters and it cost him his wife, so he knows he surrendered everything to stop them, so he knows they are a real threat. Sebastian Shaw suggests since he opened the door, he should be the one to close it, but Storm refuses to leave Eunice behind. Jean says that she'll go gather Scott since he can lead a rescue team into the gate, but Apocalypse says that he will go. Mr. Sinister is glad since then they can just close the door behind the god, but Exodus knows that something looms just beyond their ability to see, but he can feel it. Nightcrawler agrees, saying that he knows while they've gathered old enemies, they have gained new ones like the Flower Cartel or Orchis, which Mystique knows are still out there above the sun. Jamie Braddock talks about another way into Otherworld, and Apocalypse knows of a gateway to Avalon, where Monarch sits on the throne and is a vassal state to the Citadel. Xavier asks why he created a second larger gate then, but the being says that this one is different since it remains open, but Krakoa has no control over it, and now he's suspecting that the gate access isn't limited to just mutants. Emma, Magneto, and Shaw agree they need to destroy the gate, as does everyone else with a show of hands, but Cypher interrupts them, saying Krakoa says the gate needs to stay open, since they need to understand that they are guests on the island and their coexistence is collaborative, but he is the land, and the land is his. Xavier says that they respect the island's choice, and while he understands the lure of being whole again with Arakko, he hopes the island will consider both its own safety and theirs. The island says that unless there is a greater threat, the gate will stay open. Apocalypse knew this would happen since him and the island want the same thing. Magneto tells him whatever he does from now on, he will not have the full authority of the council behind him and without their blessing, which Apocalypse is fine with since he'll be seeking volunteers for a mission. At the external gate, Havoc meets with Polaris, who wonders how many times they have to step blindly through a door to upend their lives. Havoc knows it's the cost of doing business, learning Polaris is there by the honor of her father, while Havoc is there because Scott couldn't make it. Archangel meanwhile talks with Beast, knowing Richter has something going on with Apocalypse he doesn't understand. The same thing with the Summoner and Rockslide. He wonders why Beast is there, learning Hank is a creature of habit and is quite intrigued, while Warren reveals that he's there because he will never trust Apocalypse, and he needs to be there to see what the man is up to. Monette joins the group as Apocalypse asks if she's ever ventured into the other worlds before, but the mutant says she hasn't, telling them that she's only joining them since this might be a job she wants sometime down the road. At the Healing Gardens, Rachel is met by Cable, revealing to him that while Banshee is resting, his mind isn't, and it's screaming, so the two mutants tap into it. Back at the gate, Archangel walks through it with Apocalypse, learning from the being it's good to see him as he really is. Warren says that it's always blowing his mind that Apocalypse can just be him, and that there's no end to it, and their sins will soon find them. Apocalypse knows he has no sins since he does righteous work as they exit the portal, finding the Starlight Citadel is under attack. The team soon spot Eunice being crucified as Apocalypse spots the four warlords, causing tears to form in his eyes as he tells Warren this is the one thing he regrets. Apocalypse reveals that these warlords were his light and life, and they are his children. On Krakoa, Rachel and Cable enter Banshee's mind, witnessing him and the others going through the gateway, where they see the Summoner meet with the leader of the army. As in the other world, Apocalypse meets with his children, breaking down and not believing this is real, since he has always dreamt of this to happen and to see his children again. The children tell him to stand since they want to see him as they remember him, as a god and titan. Apocalypse has many questions, wanting to know about Arakko and if it fell. He asks about Genesis, but learns that she was destroyed by the Twilight Blade. Death says that if it eases his pain, there was no avoiding it, and the thousands of years of war could break any of them. Apocalypse apologizes as War tells him that regret is for the weak, and they were born strong. She wonders if he would like to know what kept them alive all these years, saying that it wasn't love for him as she and Summoner stab Apocalypse. Siren screams at their attack, blowing away Summoner and War as Cable and Rachel watch as Summoner is accepted by War and Death, learning he planned to betray Apocalypse all along, attacking Banshee and Urus. Rachel and Cable see Lady Opal watching the battle as the woman takes notice of them, telling them that they are looking at the wrong thing and a great game is at foot, and if they want to win, they will need to find what they need and what they want. Rachel and Cable are taken out of the mutant's mind as Rachel tells Cable to go find Jean and Scott, while she goes back into Banshee's mind to find anything else that's been locked away. In the other world, Lady Opal is told by Real she is needed. She knows it's time, walking with the fish person, telling them that she was busy in another realm in some poor fool's head. She knows this is delicate work and she can't tolerate distractions, which Real wonders if she thinks the army is a distraction. Opal says she just sees them all as pawns, just like the cards told her about the Hanged Man and the Krakoans who have come to their land. Real wonders if Opal will help them as the X-Men battle the army below. Summoner says that they cannot save Apocalypse as Rockslide confronts him, demanding to know why he would do this. Summoner conjures up a black sword, saying that he is the summoner of many things, but mostly lies, as he cleaves Rockslide in half, killing the mutant, as Apocalypse is dragged towards the gateway by Richter, who is soon hit by a poison arrow as Beast calls for a tactical retreat. Havoc tells them to leave since he will stay behind to make sure nothing makes it through the gate. Cable meanwhile makes it back to the summer house, calling to his parents and telling them everything that has happened, getting Jean to use her powers to share what he has seen with them so they are all caught up, wondering what the device they need to find is. Scott knows what it is and knows where to find it as Havoc continues fighting the army with Polaris and Monet, who speaks with Opal, angered that she is just spectating a war that is literally on her doorstep. The witch says she does what she pleases and won't be moved on the whim of the mutants, casting Monet back to her body. Monet knows Opal is not a nice woman as Havoc thinks that she just needs some encouragement, noting how the Citadel is quite a big piece of floating metal, getting Lorna to pull it from the sky. The Summers family meanwhile head to a hidden Orchis facility, taking out the guards and using the translocators there, where they soon arrive at the device Cable saw in his vision. Cable asks what it is as Polaris continues to rip the Citadel from the sky. Opal is not worried, thinking perhaps things are aligning to their rightful position, since this was all foretold and she has watched this all come to pass. Casting a bright light, she tells her followers that it's time to show all who wonder who rules this other world without question. The light teleports her down to the battle, where she freezes time and everything around her. Monet demands that the woman unfreeze her, but the lady refuses to. The Summers meanwhile theorize that the orb is some type of energy core, but Scott knows it to be an igniter of sorts that will restart the remote singularity drive that powers the trans-space bridge. He knows they need a pretty significant power source to get it going, and luckily Cable has an idea on what to do, activating his energy sword. Opal meanwhile talks with Death, demanding to know what insanity made him think that he could march an army into her lands and hope to win. Death refuses to talk to the witch, but Opal knows that in these lands all answer to her as she frees him, shrinking him down in size and asking him again. Death says that by right their lord wields the Twilight Sword, but if Opal thinks her magic or his death is enough to deter them, then she is wrong, since they will have Krakoa first and then her world. Real knows that they intend to pay a blood price for the land since they did the same with Dryador, so there is truth to his words. Opal knows that Death is acting regent of Dryador, asking if he's willing to fight for the lands in the ways of the vassal state. Death says that they will meet her in any arena of her choosing and will fight, as Opal says that once again she has seen the signs, and in 3 days she will summon Death's champions to duel the champions of the Otherworld. Death agrees to the terms, knowing that they will win, as Real says that they are simple beings and don't stand a chance, wondering if they should reach out to Avalon, as Opal frees the X-Men, knowing they will stand as their champions. Havoc agrees to fight on as Opal summons what has come to pass, showing them the card that was drawn and what the future holds, reciting to the X-Men the 10 swords they will need to gather to combat the 10 swords of Annihilation. Cable meanwhile plunges his sword into the power igniter as Opal tells the X-Men that they have 3 days to assemble their champions, telling them lives will be lost, alliances will be shattered, and fortunes will be gained. Monet wants to know what game Opal is playing, learning the witch is playing the oldest one there is, as she tells the woman what happens in the contest. The Summers meanwhile bring the space bridge online, which teleports them to the newly activated Sword Orbital Station. X of Swords Creation Issue 1 was an exciting beginning to Jonathan Hickman and Tini Howard's first big X-Men event, kicking things into high gear right off the bat as things aren't as they seem and the X-Men are conscripted into a war with an enemy they don't know much about. I enjoy that the premise of the story is basically like a contest of champions in a way, with the winner taking the loser's land. I think that's really quite cool, and it's kind of like a tournament sort of thing. Apocalypse being betrayed was a surprise, especially since I thought he was going to be the one doing the betraying, especially after we saw him find his children again. I thought maybe he was going to turn on the X-Men and join them in attacking the Starlight Citadel. I didn't see Summoner betraying him, although there was always something fishy about that character. I'm not sure what it was, but there was something that kind of didn't sit well with me with that character, and it's interesting to see him kind of playing that long game against his grandfather and betraying him now. I'm looking forward to the X-Men collecting all of these swords they need to, and I thought it was interesting that Muramasa was mentioned by both sides and wanted by both sides of the war. So that's going to lead to something I think very interesting for Wolverine, I presume, since he's going to be the one wielding it, since he is on all of the artwork for the story. This was a great beginning to the huge new event, and I can't wait to see it all get started beginning next week. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. A 10